Mexico daily, weekly creeps closer to becoming a full-on narco state. Cartels, big problem. It is funded, directed, organized by the Chinese Communist Party. And so dealing with the cartels is dealing with a symptom. I think we should deal with the root cause, which is in China. The cartels operate without consequences.
There is roughly about 100,000 deaths a year.
109,000 last year.
From fentanyl overdoses coming up through the southern border. We know that China's coming across, teaching these guys how to make the deadliest fentanyl known to man. Now they're moving on to another drug, which the name escapes me right now, but it's going to be more potent than fentanyl. And China's also shipping in all the supplies for the cartels to make the fentanyl. Now, a lot of these presidential candidates are talking about sending in the military. DeSantis, I interviewed him, and he wants to send in strike teams to hit these cartels. Ramaswamy, I interviewed him. He wants to utilize the military to combat the cartels. What's your take on this? I think you got a very different take.
Well, this goes way back to the 1840s when the Chinese started what was called their century of humiliation. And you had the Opium Wars, where you had trade colonies carved out, what became Hong Kong, Kowloon, on the southern China at the bottom of the Pearl River. The opium that was pushed into China, which came out of India at that point, definitely had adverse effects. And so what China is doing now is a double FU back to the United States or the West, period, for that. It is absolutely CCP, Chinese Communist Party policy to create the precursor chemicals in China, actually not far from Wuhan, oddly enough, the same place that the COVID labs were. So those precursor chemicals are sent to Mexico and to Venezuela. Eventually, they're made into labs in Mexico and pushed across the border through the cartel network. And worse than that, the Chinese are even directly intervening into Mexican politics to support very leftist candidates. AMLO, the Lopez Obrador, who's the president, is a committed hard leftist, and the Chinese want to keep him in office because he is not the law and order candidate. He was the hugs and love candidate against the cartels, promising to take no stand. And so Mexico daily, weekly creeps closer to becoming a full-on narco state where the cartels really have that say. But the cartels make as much money moving humans as they do drugs. And in some cases, they get both because they'll have the people that they're smuggling across also carry a backpack of drugs, so they get a twofer because they'll charge $15,000, $20,000 to move a human, but when that human moves $50,000 worth of drugs, they're really making money all the way. So it is the problem starts much farther upriver than just going after cartels. Action should be taken inside of China. And when the Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State, goes there, has a meeting in China, and they say, well, yes, there's chemicals coming out of China, but it's really just a matter of them mislabeling it and accidental shipping it. It is a willful ignorance and denying the problem that the Chinese are actually behind this because the U.S. continues to send Treasury Secretary, Commerce Secretary, diplomats, pleading to have meetings with the Chinese, not that they're getting anywhere, but they think the point of a meeting is to have another meeting. And it is it's like I said last time, I said, we're going through a period of the late 70s now of a Carter administration, and that's the same outcomes we're seeing in a lot of places, a lot of problem areas around the world. So to answer your question, yes, cartels, big problem. It is funded, directed, organized by the Chinese Communist Party. And so dealing with the cartels is dealing with a symptom. I think we should deal with the root cause, which is in China.
You know,
And sending the military. Look, the U.S. has had two major incursions into Mexico. One was about 1845, where we literally invaded and went to Mexico City. We don't need to do that. And there was certainly banditry in the border areas around 1900, Pancho Villa, et cetera. Done with mixed effect. If anything's going to be done on a kinetic basis, it should be done through the smallest and tiniest of covert action and to really pit the cartels against themselves.
Can you elaborate on that? How would you do it?
It's probably better not to say on camera.
Fair enough. Would it be a good idea to send in special op teams to take out specific leaders?
Look, the cartels operate without consequences. And so giving them actual consequences, if you keep moving fentanyl, if you keep moving XYZ, then this will happen. There's ways that can be communicated to them that they would respect. The reason the FARC in Colombia was finally brought to heel is because the FARC is effectively it was a leftist guerrilla army which was fighting the government, which then effectively merged with a lot of the cartel activity to become the muscle for bigger cartels in the jungles of Colombia. The reason they were brought to heel is because using signals intelligence, flying aircraft around, figuring out exactly where their camps were, and they dropped a 500-pound laser-guided bomb in the middle of that camp again and again and again, and they finally got the message. So, yes, there is some nuanced kinetics that can be done, but remember, Mexico is also pretty much our largest trading partner. And so anything that's done has to be done with a mind towards protecting the Mexican people. Mm-hmm. And it is a terrible, if you're a Mexican policeman getting paid $100 a week, maybe, and some cartel guy comes to you and say, Plato y plomo, silver or lead. Take my money, let me pay you, or I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill your family, and you're going to watch them die.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.